Hi, welcome back. I'm Mary Jo, also known as Sojo, and this is my channel where I talk about all my quilty stitchy things. And this is my weekly update number 104, and it is April 20th, 2025. It's Easter, so happy Easter, everybody that celebrates. So, it's been a week. So, what have I done this week? Well, Friday, I released the first part of this quilt behind me, and then earlier today, well, I'm recording on Sunday. I'm not sure if I'm going to release this later today or if it'll come out Monday. But on Sunday, I released part 2 of me finishing this Pony Express quilt behind me. I'll take a closer look at it in a minute and we'll move Philomena out of the way. So, let's go take a look at it. Okay, so this is my quilt. It's called the Pony Express, and it is a tutorial from Missouri Star. And it is made with a layer cake, some background, and then I use that red as a border. Just taking a little look at it. Now this did measure about 80 inches square. And it does look a little lumpy over there just because I've got a cabinet behind it. And that is what it's looking like. So I finished that this week. Now this coming week, I plan on making a video with my next 3-yard quilt. Now these all came from my 2024 Advent calendar that my husband picked out for me. And I plan on using day 10, 11, and 12 to make a quilt. And I'm going to use the 1 block 3-yard quilt book. And I'm going to do the heritage pattern, which is right here. So this is the quilt I'm going to make, and these are the 3 fabrics. So I plan on releasing a video this week, doing it and releasing the video this week on this quilt. Now, I haven't shown you guys in a while my leaders and enders projects. I do use leaders and enders just so I don't have to break the thread. Now, a while ago, you guys saw that I was making string blocks with 2.5-inch strips, which I was doing this. Sorry, I had to pause for a minute. My husband needed something. But I was making string blocks with, I was using 2.5-inch strips, and I had some paper that was given to me from a Creative Notion subscription box many years ago. So then after I did that, I had took some 5-inch squares. Well, my string blocks, these string strips, from my strips, I'd use anything that was blue and like a neutral. So anything that was like a white, beige, gray, black, that kind of stuff. And then I took 5-inch squares and kind of did stitch and flips on the corner and made all these blocks. And now I'm putting them into rows with some sashing. And I'm kind of flipping these blocks back and forth as we go. So I'm working on that. In my videos, you may see these leaders and enders projects. And then I went to my scraps again and picked out some 2.5-inch squares that are all blue to make all these sashing and cornerstone strips. So, we'll see what that quilt looks like when it's all done. I know I haven't shown that in a while, but that's kind of where I am on that and what I've been working on as I do these projects. So, let me get the other quilt projects I've been working on. So, I worked some more on this apple core quilt. Now, this is from a Creative Notion subscription box from quite a long time ago. Been working on that. Now, as always, I'm a pinner, so I've got lots of pins in these. Here's where I am so far. So I pinned these into rows, then I started sewing them together 2 rows at a time. So in those 2 rows and the 4, so I do have those pins right in the center, which is why it's looking all lumpy. So I have that. And this will be the next 2-row section that will go on afterwards. Again, I've got pins. Sorry, I'm dropping things again. Right in the center down there. There we go. And then I just have 2 more rows here that are just pinned. So eventually that'll be all done. And I like my pins. So let's see, what else did I work on? Well, I worked on yet another Creative Notions project. That's from a while ago. I worked on this chain link fence. Or not chain link fence, just chain link quilt. Now, the center of this is all put together, put on point, trimmed it down. So now I'm just starting to add the borders. So I've got a white border here first. I've got this pen down here because that will be the white border. I don't think I'm going to completely undo this because it's all folded up nice and neat. But there's a little bit about what it's looking like. And then I have these strip sets over here that I'm working on that will then be cut to make this piece border, that middle border, and then I have another white border. So I worked on that. And let me get the other 2 projects I worked on. So I worked on a sew sampler project called Swedes Honey. This is what the pattern looks like. Let's see how far this goes back. This is September of 2022. And I got all the blocks made and I'm just starting to put them in to rows. So I have those rows with the sashing row pinned together. So when next time I sew, I will sew those all together in like a web piecing, which is my favorite way to sew. Chain sewing and web piecing when you're putting that quilt top together. All right, so I worked on that, and then let's see, what else did I do? I worked on another sew sampler project. Let me get those out here. All right, now I don't know that I can really show you much on here, but I did work on this 2 of a kind sew sampler project. Now this has this little smaller quilt and this table runner. Now there was enough fabric in here for me to do both. So I'm working on both. Like I say, there really isn't much that I can pull out to show that's recognizable, but there's all the pieces pinned together, ready to go next time I go to the sewing machine. So I did work on that. All right. So as far as quilting and sewing goes, I think that's everything that I've worked on. So let me show you my cross stitch. So I started on this hands-on design. The tulip house is what I started on. Now there's 2 different, I guess, patterns in here. We have this spring up here and then this actual house down here. So I usually work 1 color at a time. So here's my spring that I started on doing the white. Got that all done. And then I'm working on all the white down here with the house. So that's where I am. Now there is a lot of this white. Well, actually it's 3865, so it's not quite white. But that's what I'm working on there. Started on that. There is a lot of that white color in there to stitch. Now, crochet. Let me show you my crochet. I had been working on this Pokemon. Let me get the book. All right, grab the book. So I was working on this Pokemon amigurumi book, and I was making this Snorlax here. That's what I was making. And it's finished. There's my Snorlax. All done. There's the little claws on the bottom. All right. So that is done. Now I think I'm gonna kind of put this Pokemon book up for a while and start on something new, which, let me get that. I think I'm gonna start on these Wooble kits. Now, these Wooble kits I think are ridiculously priced. They are like, I think regularly this is $40 and then these are $30. I think that's a bit much for what it is. However, last week I had mentioned something about, you know, what's next, what appliance we have to replace next. Well, it was neither the stove or the dishwasher. Well, it's a toilet. Apparently, my toilet, well, I have 3 bathrooms, and the one toilet had been leaking and leaked down into the subflooring, so we get to rip out all the subflooring and replace the toilet. How fun. So we had to go look for a new toilet, bought a new toilet, and where we're at, there's a Joanns, and as you know, Joanns is going out of business. So actually the last day is this week. So we went in to see what they had, and they had these Wooble kits marked down. Everything else was pretty much empty in that store. There was very little of anything. Now they were down to $12. However, I still think $12 is a bit high, but considering they're usually like $30 and $40, I was like, my husband decided to get me one because I do think they're cute. Well, he didn't get me just one, he got me a few. So let's take a look at them. So we've got this Melody one, this Hello Kitty one. Now I did already open it just because I wanted to see what was in it. You know, and they do have the yarn, and they do have them already started with some stitch markers in there. So we got the different yarns. The yarns, and then we got the stuffing. There's a crochet hook. And then we got the wee woobly bits, which are like basically like the safety eyes and some extra little yarn and a yarn needle. The extra yarn is for like usually like if you have to do like any embroidery, like the nose and the face type thing. That's what's in here. So that's the one that I opened. But I also have the, let's see, this is the Narwhal. And the polar bear. And then we got another Hello Kitty. And the sushi. Now, I wasn't really a fan of this one, but my husband liked it, so, you know, he bought it. And then we have the moose. I do think they're cute. I just think they're overpriced. But we'll give them a try. And the reindeer. So, that's what we got at Joann's. And one more thing to show you. And my diamond painting. Now, this is the Amsterdam Canal. It is big, so it gets a little hard to show you. Starting to see the bike over there. Oops. Oh well. So that is everything that I've worked on and completed this week. All right, till next time.